I'm gonna reuse every single one of these. On today's episode of WatchJRGo, we're in the basement of the new house. We're here with a bunch of big boxes. There's a lot more of these. They weigh a ton, and today we're gonna fix the water quality issues here forever. It's water softener time. What is going on, guys? I am WatchJRGo, and today, like I said, here in the basement with a bunch of boxes I've been waiting on for quite a while. This is a gigantic twin head 30,000 grain water softener that hopefully can keep up with all the load and all the GPM that this house will be able to flow when it's done. Now, a long time ago, you guys remember, we redid the entire water system on this house. We cut back the main that comes from the city right here. This is City of Wichita water, which actually isn't that bad. We'll talk more about that in just a minute. And then we came in here and plumbed this whole system in with PEX A. And now we've got our fin, which is providing ultrasonic water metering and remote shutoff capability. And if that water sensor ever senses any water on the ground, it can close the fin automatically, which is sweet. It also even alerts me to humidity alerts, which that happens because the air conditioning is not fixed in this house yet. So I see those every once in a while. And of course we added this water filter, which has been in here. It's probably flowed almost 3,000 gallons a month for 6 months. And that's what that looks like. Obviously it was supposed to be replaced 3 months ago. So I do need to run to Home Depot and grab another filter. But Wichita water is not that bad. You can see there's a little bit of sediment and the filter is dirty, but the reality is there's a lot worse water in the world. If we test this water, like take a sample, send it in, they're usually like, you could run a water softener if you want to, but you don't have to. But if you're in a city where that isn't true, or if you're running on a well or anything like that, if you're on a well, make sure you've got a sediment filter, and then you'll probably want a water softener too. I like my clothes to, it makes your clothes last longer, it makes your hair feel better if you have soft water. So right here, we have a huge Fleck water softener. And this isn't your traditional water softener where you pay like a monthly fee, which is kind of what they've all turned into. I mean, everything in our lives has turned into a subscription, let's be honest. It's pretty rough out there. But Culligan and Eco Water, they want your money every month, and they'll come out and they'll give you salt and they'll service it, even though I don't think anything ever goes wrong, but they'll service it if something does go wrong, and they'll test your water every once in a while or something like that. Basically just bring you salt. As far as I know, that's what they do. I don't know for sure because I don't have a Culligan subscription. I have always had Culligan water softeners. My dad always had them. I have them at the other house. Basically, you just buy a used one and you put salt in it and it never has a problem in its life. Well, this company, Fleck, makes the valves that the Culligans run. And it was about it was less than $3,000. So it's what your Culligan subscription would be for like a year or two, something like that. And this hopefully has a solid 10+ year service life. My other Culligan has been running 10 years and probably had 10 years on it before that, and it's still working great. Every once in a while you might need to repack the media, but we're not gonna get into that. Today, I'm just gonna show you how to install a water softener and save a bunch of money. So let's get into it. First, I need to get all the boxes in here, and then it looks like they built a little slip system, so I need to cut all this tape up, and then let's slide the top off of here and get these heads, or the tanks, into position. All right, guys, we got the actual water softener tanks in here. This should be the brine tank because it's a giant box. I haven't opened this yet, obviously, so we'll get to that right now. And I assume this is the actual water softener head. I don't know for sure. I mean, they didn't. This is like the weirdest Amazon purchase of all time. First time I've ever bought a water softener on Amazon. I will throw a link to this in the description below if you guys want to also join the water softener gang. I do highly recommend it, no matter what your water tests at, but I'm hoping there's a book of instructions in here somewhere too. Okay, this is pretty funny. I'm gonna reuse every single one of these. There we we go. The brine tank's not supposed to weigh that much. I think they included salt. Or the media? I don't know what they included here. Ugh. This box looks like the important one. It's funny, the small box is always the most important one. Look at that. Fleck 9000 service manual. You can do it yourself. This thing better be pretty. Less pretty than the Culligan, honestly. But it's gonna work, so I can't complain. So I got the resin tanks unpacked, and this one I went ahead and pulled the cap out. To get the cap out, super easy, you're just gonna unscrew this thing. And the other, yeah, these are, the way they ship them, I'm not thrilled with this. So normally, you'd be able to pull out the center distribution tube here because it has to like land dead center in the middle of this thing. And with these, they're like half pre-filled. Yep, it sure is. It's filled up to about here with resin already. Now I think this is like the default resin that maybe these companies are shipping them with, which is like the smallest system they sell. They're all the same tanks apparently. But they sent me all this extra resin here, and I'm going to pour the extra resin in using the funnel. So when we're done with all this resin, it'll be, well, not actually that much higher because we're only adding what looks like a cubic foot or something like that. But this system is the biggest one they sell with 30,000 grains of capacity. So we're just gonna finish filling these up. It looks like the bags are equal, which is good. I'm gonna kind of double check, see if they weigh the same, and then if so, fill these up. If you don't have these rubber caps on there, tape up this distributor tube because you don't want resin going in it. I was surprised to see these caps on there. If they weren't, I was gonna run out to the shop and grab the caps we use to, you know, ship salvaged engines, which I've got basically every size of cap, so we'd find something that fits. Whatever you do, just don't get the resin down in the tube. That's all that matters. This is a messy job. Plan on getting your entire floor covered with resin, even if you're very careful. The bags leak resin, it falls out, and it just generally is a mess when you're doing this. But hey, both tanks should be full now. I'm gonna shake them to make sure they're level, and I'm actually gonna sweep up the mess here so I'm not turning the whole floor into a slippery mess. The sealing surface for the head and the auxiliary adapter thing that goes on the other tank is this top piece, so clean it up really well. It's nylon, make sure it's perfectly clean, and then pull your cap off. Make sure I tried to clean out the threads as best I could because I don't want it crunching on the way down, you know. I might even take a rag and try to clean it up just a little bit more. Make sure all the resin drops into the tank basically. And then we're ready to start assembling things. So you need food grade grease, but the way this one shipped from the manufacturer, it is absolutely slathered in the silicone that I need. So I'm gonna go with what they did. They should have included a packet, I would think, if they're giving you a kit to do it all yourself. So I'm just going to make sure their grease is spread around nicely and go ahead and screw these things together. The first one's ready. That distributor pipe in the middle has to hit an O-ring in the middle. I found out because I pushed the basket down on, and I was like, yeah, it won't go in. So I popped the basket off. It's like a, you know, eighth of a turn thing. And then found that that pipe wasn't going into the O-ring, so it took a wiggle. So I put it all back together, wiggled a bunch, got it in, and then spun this down until it was very tight. So that one's ready to go, and we're ready to install the actual valve head, which is even harder to install because you're balancing all this weight at once. All right guys, it's time to install the main valve. We're gonna see if I can do the wiggle. And I also just noticed the tanks are leaned out at an angle, which is bad news. They need to be perfectly in line with each other once you actually get this all set up. So we might have to do a little shimming because the floor down here in the maintenance room all drains down towards the sump pit, unfortunately. but also fortunately, right? Because it's not a bad design, that's for sure. So we'll start with the main valve because we need to get that sealed up. Again, I'm glad they thoroughly coated this with silicone. All right, getting the strainer on was the end of the world, so it had to be done on this one outside of the tank, unfortunately. So now, I honestly, it doesn't even strain anything. It just keeps resin from going up in the valve. Okay, so now we've got it. Screwing the valve in. Gross. That resin in there makes horrible sounds. All right, we're back with some hardware here. We got the manifold all set up, so you can see we've got our PEX-A adapters screwed into our 1 3/4 reducers. Just kind of PVC glued those together real quick. Cover everything with Teflon, obviously you don't want any leaks. And we're ready to start putting this thing together, which is something I'm very excited about. Now this thing did come with a bypass valve, which is pretty sweet, so I didn't have to build a big bypass in the PEX, which I thought about doing, but this will go like that. Lube up all your O-rings with silicone. We grabbed some silicone grease at Home Depot there, and you don't want to use anything else because it will probably ruin the O-rings eventually. So anyway, all this goes together, and then these clamps are like just little U-shaped clamps, and they tie all of this together. So there's some over here, and the bypass goes on the side of the valve over here. Put all that together, put all the clamps on, then put the crossover tubes. They have the same U-clamps. You just keep putting O-rings and U-clamps together and try not to break any of it. That would be the key there. But those just slide down. It's pretty self-explanatory once you get to this spot right here. Slap it all together. So we're gonna start slapping right now and see just how fast we can get all this done. Ooh, that silicone grease is gooey. Had like a jello layer on top. Ah, that's how they're supposed to fit together. So nice. And they put the screws in here already from the factory, and it kind of made it a pain. All right, the tubes over to the auxiliary tank are hooked up. All the clamps are in. It's a little fun getting all these clamps in, but basically there's holes in the back of the valve here, and you can get screwdrivers through the holes to put all these clamps in. But we got the bypass valve, we got our manifold hooked up, got our tubes on. As level as the tanks are gonna get. It's really weird. They don't look level, but they sat together perfectly with the tubes. So we're just gonna call that good and not move them around anymore, even though I do wish they would rotate. But when I rotated them, it threw the level off more. So this is where they're sitting. It's about as level as can be. So that means we're ready to hook the water up to this thing. Water in is the front, water out is the back. And we're just gonna come up from here, go right in, come right back out, pick this guy up, and we'll be ready to rock with the house's soft water. But first, we're gonna hook the brine tank up, and we do need a drain as well. Drain's simple. I gotta go buy some rubber hose for that. It just screws in right here on top. Shouldn't even have to look. It goes like that. So then you just run a hose down to, we're gonna dump it into the sump, the drain sump we have here. So we'll Teflon that up, put it together here in a few, and then we have this piece here. That's the overflow for the brine tank, so we gotta set that up right now. The resin that came in the bags in this tank went everywhere. You guys see that? And I don't want it getting sucked up in there, so I'm gonna vacuum this out. But this goes in right here. That's all you have to do with this. It's very simple. That big washer should go outside, rubber washer inside, and just point it down so if water ever gets too high in the tank, it dumps out. That's the goal. So on the brine tank, it turns out I actually had to take the sleeve for the brine well there and take that apart, pull the safety valve out. This is an overflow valve. If the water gets too high, this float closes and keeps the water from, running into your house. So that's all that's there for. It doesn't really do anything except be a safety. So I had to take this out, which has a little nut on it, and then put this overflow in to hold the tube up to the wall. So now we put this back in its hole, and then we can put the nut back on that holds this. It holds this thing up against the wall. That's all it does, nothing special. It's all stainless, it's nice. And then we'll have the fitting that we need pointing straight to this hole, and we're ready to hook up the brine tank. Bunch of sauce in here, and all we have to do for this is grab our brine line, which is now filthy from being on the ground. It's got brass inserts in both sides, I think, so it doesn't matter which side you use. Just make sure you get it clean. Oops, I should have put the nut on second. Now I have to feed the whole thing through the hole. Here we go. That's how you solve problems right there. So you shouldn't have to kill this. Just get it nice and snug, and then you're done in your brine tank. Put the cover on this, put the lid on it. I mean, put salt in it, and of course, salt is the thing I forgot. So we're going back to the store to get hose and salt. Yeah, that's my fault. I forgot that water softeners need water softener salt. Pretty dumb thing to forget. All right, we're back with salt, and we're back with some tubing, and I left the fitting out in the truck, but eventually we're gonna get all this put together so we can have a drain on this system. I think they added these yeah, we got perforations on these bad boys now. Oh! All right, let's fill this thing up. Taste the salt. Skittles. Taste the rainbow. I can really taste the salt at first. Usually mine doesn't. Oh, there's no water. And when there's water, the dust doesn't get in your face. Oh, that was an adventure then. I'm gonna stop and we'll get some water in this tank. All right, the whole house filter is changed, which looks about 1,000,000 times better. And we're almost done plumbing. I had to cut my temporary line that was feeding the house. And now this is kind of how it's gonna look finally. We got a little Tetris going on. It comes up, over, into the valve, back out, and then up to the ceiling where we're gonna put a T. And that T obviously will go feed the manifold and also go feed the water heater. So right now I gotta figure out where we're gonna lay all this pipe out, because I don't wanna be redoing any of this. This is kind of it's done forever after this deal, and we'll just go from there. All I know is at the end of the day, we want the manifold to be feeding this pipe that runs back into the PVC that runs the house temporarily. So we're trying to get all the PVC out of the house, but it's gonna take a little bit of time for that. I've got my water softener all hooked up. If you're putting one in, you've probably got yours all hooked up at this point as well. Obviously, this is 1-inch MPT, and then you kind of need to build a few adapters. You can get down to whatever size you're using, or if you're just using 1-inch, you should be good to go. But I stepped down to 3/4 and pick up the water coming out of our main filter here. And this is all square and measured, and once I put the anchors in, it's probably the last thing we'll do here. It will all square up and it won't look wavy and weird, but it looks a little different just for the moment. But we're hooked up to the manifold, we're hooked back up to the house, and we're about to turn the water back on. I'm just giving it a few seconds to make sure the collars have shrunk back down on all of our PEX-A. Our drain line is hooked up too. So we've got my drain coming off of here, and it'll get a hose clamp eventually. Well, you know, I say that, but the one I have at my other house has 12 years of no hose clamp and not a single issue. But they say you should hose clamp that. It's got nice barbs. It's the right 1/2-inch clear vinyl tubing. It should be fine. I've got that running around, dumping into the basement drain sump. So that's ready to go. And as soon as we turn the water on and flush some water through here, we'll be ready to actually fire this thing up. Well, let's party. It's time to do our first leak check with the house set up, kind of the way it's gonna be set up forever, with the manifold hooked up and everything. So we're just gonna slowly bring some water into the system and then wait until we get it all the way out the sinks, and then go close everything and do a little leak checking. So far, so good. Well, right out of the gate, we've got a leak I didn't want. You know, I have that thing absolutely buried on there, and it sure seems like it shouldn't be leaking, but I guess we'll get the big vice grips on it and tighten it down some more. We're on to our second leak check over here. I tightened these things down with much bigger wrenches. The first time I just used my Knipex and my hands, and I went as hard as I could. This time I put the biggest crescent wrench I had across the entire block and cranked it down. So hopefully this time, and so far, it looks like there's no leaks. And once there's no leaks, we can start filling these tanks. And to fill the tanks, since you already have your giant crescent wrench in your hand, just slowly open up the bypass valve. So we're gonna go ahead and crack the back open. It took a long time to get these tanks full, but they finally are. You can hear it's quiet now, and I finally have the water all the way onto the house. Now, there is a faucet open, so I can make sure I was getting some water through the system as I was filling these up, and getting any trash that gets flushed out as well. And now that it's all full, we have the bypass valve fully in service. I shut the water back off, flipped it to service, and then opened it up very slowly. So we're good to go. It looks like we don't have any leaks anymore. I don't see any water. But with that said, it's time to go close that faucet in there and start setting this thing up. So we're gonna finally plug it in, and then I'll show you how to run it through its paces real quick, just so you can get the tank full and get your water softener rocking and rolling. It shouldn't take too much longer. I have to do all the hard work here. That was a lot of fun. I don't think anyone's ever made a video showing how to set up a 9100. Mostly older models, and I don't know if I've ever seen another one on a 30,000 grain either. So I just figured maybe you guys want to see this, and maybe you want to save some money every month instead of paying WatchJRGo water. All right, the water's off again. It's time to finally plug this thing in. I know if you're anything like me, plugging it in is the first thing you want to do, but that's not how you're supposed to set this up. There we go. She's set up. We're at 12 p.m. and we're gonna put this thing right into its backwash mode. So we're gonna just hold this down and it should regen. All right, now we're gonna wait a bit here. You can actually see this is gonna turn all the way until the arrow says backwash. So it's gonna take a little bit here. It's turning. It's crazy. This little tiny gear motor will spend years of its life turning ultra slow. I've got the water off to the house again. Once it gets to backwash, I'm gonna slowly ramp the water back in, and we should start seeing this flush everything out of the drain port here, and all the air, any air that's left in the system coming out. And then, once that starts happening, I'll be right back with you guys, because this is it's a slow process. The arrow has barely moved at all. It can take a long time to move through this many positions. When it finally got all the way into backwash, the brine hose shot out of its sump here and sprayed the entire basement. Oh well, it happened. My shoes got a little bit wet. They needed washed anyway. I know it's noisy. We're gonna get out of this mode in just a second, but take a look at what's coming out of the backwash or the drain. So now we're gonna push this twice. That's brine drain, oh, I gotta wait all the way. So brine drain is happening now, and then rapid rinse. We're gonna skip that too until we get to BF for brine fill, and that will fill this hose, and we can leak check it over to the brine tank. All right guys, a bunch of troubleshooting later, we finally have everything working the way it was supposed to. Everything's tight, no more leaks over on the manifold side. And once I got it all put together, no matter what I did, I went through like 5 regen cycles now, it would not brine fill, no matter what. And I think a lot of the issue with this is these were shipped laying on their sides, and they're never supposed to lay on their sides. And I'm sure the shippers were like, I don't care, these weigh 110 pounds each, why would we care, you know? That's just how shipping is. Well, the brine tank was to, what I found out after I took everything apart is there's a plunger in there. The plunger connects to the safety float. The safety float's down here in the tube, right? And that plunger has a dome over it, and then this connector on top is a quick release, and it holds all that together. Well, I think that plunger, it regulates the flow of water into the brine tank. It had gotten stuck underneath the safety because it's like a rocker system. Crazy. But it's all super simple. But I tried and tried and tried to get it to fill, and nothing was happening. Now it is rocketing full of water. So we finally have everything running like it's supposed to. And we'll go through, I'll probably set up the settings later, but it comes with a book to tell you how to set the settings. Set it up for your house, set your hardness, set how many gallons you want between regens, set if you want it to go at a specific time of night, or if you have a 2 tank, you just let it regen all the time, and boom, you got a water softener. So that's all you gotta do. Really cheap to do a system that Eco Water Culligan would probably charge $10,000 to $15,000 for, and you can do it yourself for, I think I got $2,000 in this. So Now, I don't know what the salt cost me. I think it was $10 a bag. But it's time to finish putting the salt in. And the best part is now that it's full of water and filling up rapidly, I don't have to breathe the salt anymore. Finally, guys, this was, I unloaded it and I was like, this will take like 30 minutes. No, hours later, hours of troubleshooting. It's finally done. You can see our brine tank here is full, so full in fact, that, I mean, it actually fills the brine tank for like 12 plus minutes, maybe even 15 minutes. It's so full the float closed it. So the float's working, which is a good sign. And obviously it's filling, which wasn't working forever. Get all those little resin bits out of there. But we're finally home free. So we can put the lid on this guy. It's heavy now. It's full of salt and water, that's for sure. And the final regen, our test regen here will be done in 22 seconds. And since that's done too, and we know everything else checks out, we can put everything together. So this little cover has 2 thumb screws. You just kind of slide it onto its thumb screw holders here. And you got a water softener. 5 seconds remaining. Oh, once you have this on, that's not like my Coligans. On my Coligans, you can push the buttons. This one has a piece of plastic over it. The water system is ready to be hooked up to the house. We got filtered water, soft water, and soon one of the ports over here on the manifold will connect to the RO, and the RO will run to the fridge and the drinking water, and we're there. I forgot to set the time. I gotta take it back off. But I will show you guys on the display a couple cool things it can do. So that little faucet, if it's blinking, it means the water's running. Right now it's not, it's just in service. That's what the faucet means. 1:21 p.m. Obviously I gotta go set the clock. The next screen right there, $11.99 is how many gallons until the next regen. I'll probably set this to 3,000 gallon regens because I don't think it'll need to regen for a long time. Also, the U2 is which tank is running. So I think the head is U1, this is U2. So whichever one it says is the one you're operating on. So we do need to, you push both buttons or something like that. This is regen now, and this should be program things. Oh, ooh. Regen at 2 a.m., which we're gonna switch. I just want to set the time. Oh, time date, you just hold it. Okay, 5 minutes at a time. Good job, programmers. Time set, in service, ready to rock. Well, there you go. It's finally all set up, covers on, and it looks cool. That is it for today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to head on over to shop.WatchJRGo.com for cool shirts, not like this. And please like, share, subscribe, do whatever you want to do, and I will talk to you next time on the adventures of water softeners. That's what we do here now. I'm just happy this is done because it was a long time coming. And once we get these supports in here, pull these back to the wall, it'll all look nice and pretty. And we're ready to put some, tomorrow we're gonna start plumbing. So I just wanted to have all this done before we got into the real plumbing. So we knew where things needed to sit, what was gonna be in the way. We got it all done.